In this video, we are going to show the rotavator working amongst stones, rocks, stumps, and other hard objects. A lot of people don't think rotavators will work in these conditions, but I can tell you the contrary is true. But only when the rules are understood, the rules on how to avoid problems. Once the rules are understood and accepted and adhered to, meaning whoever's operating the machine has to ultimately be the one with the best understanding of the rules, then the machine will go a long way to giving satisfactory results. One of the rules is that you pick up hard objects, let's say grapefruit size and larger, for this size machine. Anything you see, you pick up and get out of the way. The other thing you would have done actually before that is correctly match the rotavator with the tractor. Some models and widths are not as acceptable as others. Generally speaking, every rotavator model gets stronger in the narrower width. Now, you've not seen much stone activity. You will be seeing here in just a second. This field has some outcroppings. And what you'll notice is the operator is reducing the RPMs, possibly lifting up a little bit, taking some weight off the tires, and you'll be hitting this outcropping here right about now. You see the stones fly out the back, and as I say, by reducing the RPMs, he's reducing the velocity with which the blade hits the stone. By taking some weight off the machine and onto the tractor, he's also reducing the potential for damage. And also he's going a little bit shallower. The whole aspect of the rotavator is that because of its unique ability to go shallow, we can thereby successfully avoid stones that you cannot with other tillage tools. The rotavator will do a better job of killing vegetation, mulching residues, and creating seed beds than most every other tillage tool going shallow. Now the operator's coming back, and once again, if you listen to the engine RPMs, he's reducing them as he gets near this vein, this rock outcropping, and he'll take a little bit of weight onto his rear tires off of the rotavator. One of the other things we do is we set the machine up properly for stones and rocks. We use a double flange kit, which is our stone guard kit, our double flange kit, which sandwiches the blade between two pieces of metal. We use a longer bolt, and when we tighten up all the bolts, you have a vice grip effect that engages a much larger portion of the shank of the blade than without. Without the double flange kit, you just have the two bolt heads against the blade, whereas with a double flange, they are everywhere. The blade shank is engaged everywhere. This field is not particularly stony. It just does show the rotavator mulching residue, incorporating residue in the spring, and making a beautiful seedbed in one pass. Now this hillside is very stony. In fact, we'll show a video of it later after the rains have washed much of the dust off the stones and after the residue is decomposed. But there is no fall tillage. This is just one pass in the spring, and you can see the rotavator jumping around as it engages those stones and rocks. Now, once he's off the hill, the machine settles down, because in this particular farm, there is not a lot of stones or rocks at the bottom of the hill. They're just up there in that hill. So the machine right now is running very quietly, but as you watch it come up that hillside, you can see it bouncing around considerably. And if you listen to the original recording, you'll hear it, the stones bouncing around. Now, in addition to having the stone guard kit, the double flange kit, we try to run with the rear shield up all the way. The advantage there is you hit the stone once and you kick it out the back. Whereas if that shield were down, especially with down pressure, this machine does happen to have coil spring down pressure on the rear shield. The potential exists to have the shield down too much with pressure, so hard objects just have a harder time getting out, in which case you beat them up more. Instead of hitting them once and getting them out, they bounce around longer until they finally work their way out of the machine. That's not the best way to do it. A better way is shield all the way up, hit the stone once, and get it out of there. So you see how one side of the machine is lifting up while the other one stays down. When we mounted the rotavator to the tractor, we paid close attention to making sure that the lift arms are in float position. On most of your quality agricultural tractors, in that relationship between the rocker shaft, the lift arm, and the lower link arm, there is a fixed position and a float position. We always try to choose the float position, giving that machine as much flexibility as possible. Here is that same field, hillside, I should say, later on in the season, after the rains have washed the soil off of some of the stones, and after much of the residue has decomposed. But this all represents one pass with the rotavator, and then it was planted. This is not an organic farmer. This is a conventional dairy farmer. Now, I know him. He's very good at picking stones and rocks. The larger ones you see right now should have been picked up after rotavating and before planting. But that was one of the wettest springs on record, and my guess is he just didn't have time. He proceeded very cautiously, slowly, with the planter, and then came back and picked those up later. His equipment, no equipment, will survive pounding of things like that size on a regular basis. He acquired his rotavator in 1978 and still has it today. Notice here that when you fall off those hills, you get down to the low ground, there's not a stone down there at all. It's very clean. They're just up in the hillside. So that's the way it is on many farms where it's a lot nicer to have all the stones congregated in one area rather than spread evenly over the field. It makes picking a lot easier. What we do on our own farm is make piles of stones and then come out and usually have the youngest kid in the family drive the tractor, and then the older adults heave the stones into the loader bucket or skid steer bucket. Our hope is to get a rock picker someday, but not in the short run. It's good exercise. You don't have to join the health club. Again, a shot of another field from a distance. As you can see, a lot of the white objects out there are stones. As I mentioned earlier, there are rules, and once the rules are clearly understood, every one of them makes a lot of sense. And when you adhere to the rules, you go a long way to avoid problems. It's a matter of selecting the right machine for the tractor, for the horsepower, the acreage, and the severity of the conditions. It's a matter of mounting the machine correctly to the tractor, and then learning how to use it properly. This is that same farm that we showed a little while ago where that hillside was infested with stones and rocks. Again, this is another top of a hill where if you look out, you don't see anything, but everything is sort of right there underneath the photographer's feet. And a machine will not stand a regular pounding of everything you see out here. They just have not had a chance to pick it up yet. That they rotavated successfully, and they will come back and pick up those stones before the harvest season for sure. This is ground that was not tilled in the fall. There are some stones in certain parts of this field. This is all the same farm, by the way, that we've been on so far. And but what you see here is no fall tillage, but some growth that's occurred this spring. And with the L blades that this machine has, he's missing nothing. So that when he does plant, he's planting into an environment where most everything that was green and growing is now dead and dying. And if it does survive, it can be easily overwhelmed with a lighter application of herbicides. If this were organic, you would make one pass, let it lay for a while, then make a second pass with something before planting. Not necessarily a rotavator. You only use a rotavator in a second pass because you have to, because based on your experience and your knowledge, nothing else will do as good a job or as thorough a job of killing